We've got David Tafuri here, the former State Department official. We've got Rebeccah Heinrichs, the Hudson Institute fellow. So, Rebeccah, he's walking a fine line here. He's not ripping it up, but he's saying essentially, try it again. Help me with this.
No, it's tough, it's clear, and I think it's prudent. What the president is saying is, I'm not going to walk away. We're going to enforce it to the best that we can, and we're going to look at the areas that should have been addressed from the beginning. The missile program. I've said this before. The missiles are what a nuclear weapon would be put on. We've watched this happen with North Korea. They figured out the nuclear part. The hard part's the missile part. Do we want, the president now has an opportunity to prevent Iran from becoming the kind of problem that we're dealing with right now with the North Koreans. So we're going to focus on the missile part. And then we're going to look at the IRGC. This is, they conduct terrorist activities. So we're going to, put the screws on the IRGC, and we're going to try to, get them to stop their terrible activities throughout the region. So this is taking a holistic, comprehensive strategy towards Iran and not just looking at the specific, narrow nuclear part, which is what the Obama administration did. So I think that this is exactly right. And frankly, what the Europeans want is American leadership here. I do think they're going to get on board, and I think we're going to end up with a better strategy here than what we had previously.
All right, David, that might be so, but obviously it's raised concerns in Europe and the international diplomatic community. That could be a good thing as well. But I want to quote from a Financial Times article on this subject, that European and Russian officials telling them that if the U.S. sought to renegotiate or even unravel the accord, it would severely damage efforts to stop the proliferation of atomic weapons in North Korea and elsewhere. What do you make of that, that this would send just the opposite signal that the president would want?
Well, one thing almost everyone agrees on is that Iran is complying with the deal. Now, what the president is trying to attempt to do here is to tinker with the deal. But what's extraordinary is that he is not doing it himself. He's not having the administration do it, which he easily could do. He has the ability to try to change this deal. He's kicking it back to Congress, which is very strange. It suggests he's too indecisive and too ineffective to make these changes himself. He's pushing it to Congress and trying to blame Congress. Congress is unlikely to be able to do anything on this as well, which will leave us in a vacuum. And I think our allies are right that we are not going to be able to convince them and Iran to change this deal. So if we want to confront Iran, we got to leave the deal in place, which is flawed, but use other ways to confront Iran. Some of the things that President Trump mentioned are good, like putting more sanctions on the Revolutionary Guard, like pushing back in the places where Iran is supporting terrorism and supporting Hezbollah, like in Yemen, like in Syria. But the act of not certifying and pushing this to Congress is an extraordinarily weak act for a president who claims he's strong.
Well, you could argue just as well, right, David, that his predecessor going about this unilaterally without involving Congress, maybe for perfectly good reason, couldn't get Congress to get its act together. At the same time, it's one bold act defying another bold act. But I will, Rebeccah, raise an issue that David raised as well about whether the Iranians are complying. The president made it very clear today he doesn't think they are, and that they want to check it out and want to re-examine this and have a better way to button this up and to prove they're doing what they say they would be doing. But again, a lot of diplomats in Europe are saying that this could be a slippery slope. However hastily this was arranged, not that the 2015 agreement was hastily done, but it was done without Congress, that in the eyes of the diplomatic community, all they know is that the U.S. is changing a deal or walking away in some part from a deal, something we've not done, and they think that sets a bad precedent, even though I think, to your point, it wasn't done in the conventional sense. But people will only see and hear it in headlines in the European and world community press. They'll say the U.S. abdicates its commitment, its promise. What do you make of that?
Well, this is why the president should have negotiated as a treaty. That's why the Constitution has Congress involved. That's why the Senate is supposed to be involved. I mean, all of these people who are in favor of the Iran deal were in favor of this paper-thin, easy-to-knock over if the next administration doesn't like it deal. That's why you go through Congress. It's going to be stronger if you have buy-in from the Congress, which, by the way, is buy-in from the American people. That's who this is supposed to go to and support. They're the ones that are actually in charge here. So it's going to make it stronger. And our allies should know that. They should look, they say, look, this wasn't negotiated as a treaty. It was an agreement, and so the next administration can come in and take it down.
All right, then what do you make, Rebeccah? No, it's an important distinction here because Vladimir Putin's spokesman has said U.S. abandonment of this pact would without doubt damage predictability, security, stability, and non-proliferation worldwide. I know that can be a case of maybe, in some people's eyes, the pot calling the kettle black here, but what do you make of that? It's just starting.
Well, Vladimir Putin is a great propagandist. His country is right now in violation of another treaty, the INF Treaty. So they violate treaties as a matter of course, so I don't really take his criticism seriously. I mean, the point is the United States of America is staying in the JCPOA. That's the Iran deal. We're going to try to enforce it the best we can. But the Iranians aren't even letting the IAEA look in particular military sites. One of the problems of this deal was that the Americans knew that the Iranians had a different interpretation of several provisions. So if you're walking away from a treaty thinking that you've got a good deal, even though you don't have all of the parties even understanding the terms, you're going to have problems.
Okay.
So, you know,
right, guys,
we're going to do our best.
I wish I had. I understand. I'm jumping on you and I'm being rude. I apologize to both of you. We have all this other breaking news word of a press conference coming out of Las Vegas as well. Do want to let you know, of course, Rebeccah was referring to the IAEA, that's the International Atomic Energy Agency. That is sort of the scorekeeper here, and whether Iran is sticking to this deal or not. The IAEA has said they are. Others say, yeah, but by the time they get in there to police this sort of thing, Iran could have changed a lot of things, hidden a lot of things. Who knows?